Good morning. It is my pleasure and privilege to welcome you at the conference The Hidden Power of Design, organized as a part of Małopolska Open Eyes Economy Hub promotion of firms' ideas from Małopolska region. My name is Katarzyna Jagodzińska and I will moderate today's discussions. We live in a designed world. We are surrounded by things that were designed. We wear clothes that were designed. We live in buildings that were designed. And those buildings are filled with things and equipment that was designed. We cannot escape design. It is the most democratic sphere of cultural and creative industry. So the power of design seems to be endless and strongest regarding impact on societies and individuals. We can talk about design as a driving force for economy of cities. We can discuss the transformation of cities with reference to design. We can address design as the area of research and problem-solving process. We can also approach specific fields of design and see where art and commerce meet. That is, for instance, advertisement murals or statuettes designed as prizes for festivals or competitions. Today's conference will be a platform to address all those threats. The conference is divided into two blocks. The first one, which is just about to start, will be a theoretical and practical reflection on design, while the second block that will start at 1 p.m. will discuss business possibilities in the Netherlands and will be informative, especially to those wishing to establish or develop their businesses in the Netherlands. The Małopolska Open Eyes Economy Hub project is addressed to small and medium enterprises from Małopolska operating in one of two industries, that is creative industries and leisure time, as well as information and communication technologies, and plan to extend their activities through international expansion. It is based on the concept entitled Firm Idea, implemented as part of the Open Eyes Economy movement. The main objective of the project is to enhance international activeness of Małopolska small and medium enterprises by supporting their internationalization. That is, for instance, by participation in foreign economic missions and international fairs, and allowing easier identification of Małopolska by promoting it as a region that puts into practice the concepts of firm idea and economy of values in business cooperation, and finally, to promote the region's innovative character through consolidation of cooperation between science and business in these smart specializations. The project is co-financed by the European Union from the European Regional Development Fund. The conference was part as the economic mission to Eindhoven, and its participants were to present themselves to the Dutch audience there. Due to the circumstances, it's not possible to meet on site. However, we can take advantage of technology and meet online. Information and presentations of companies participating in the Małopolska Open Eyes Economy Hub program are available on the website. You have the address under your screens. I wouldn't like to delay no more. First, I would like to invite our wonderful speakers. Ms. Mary-Ann Schreurs, please take the floor. Mary-Ann Schreurs will talk about design as an engine of cities. She believes in design as an important engine for our economy and being just the right tool for defining big challenges of the city. As the first Dutch Vice-Mayor of Design, she therefore introduced design in local innovation policy. Her goal is to improve citizens' lives by using the methodology of design thinking in co-creation with the citizens itself and other stakeholders in the city. Before she became council member and vice mayor to Eindhoven, she was co-initiator in innovation projects linked to design. Mary-Ann Schreurs, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And it's wonderful to be able to connect. It would have been even more wonderful to meet you here, but to me the connection is very worthwhile because I now learn what is going on in Poland, and in the end we really have to cooperate within the European context to be able to do the things that create a future for all of us. So actually I ran into design totally by accident. as in my first term as vice-mayor, my colleague of culture asked me to do the opening of de Week van het Ontwerp, the week of design. And I was there and I saw things, and they were wonderful. You have the industrial design, you have the conceptual design, what was later called Dutch design, and what is more or less about the deconstruction of chairs at that moment in time. But what struck me the most was what Philips were doing. They were transforming hospital to make them patient-centered. And they did it together with the patients. And that is, they created an environment, a total environment in which you could feel at ease. And all the while, the work and the logistics just went on as they had to do. But the patients had a tremendous time as far as possible, because it was more orientated on what their feelings was. So the reduction of stress, the number of days spent in hospital went down. All the things you had to do in hospitals were swifter, because it was designed for people. And it also meant that the cost went down. And in the end, that's my contention. There are a few prerequisites, but if you do it people-orientated, in the end, it will work. Why was it so important for me as a vice-mayor? Because we were failing in all the things we did publicly. It was very organized, like factories, top down, and everybody had to do things as prescribed. So it was not made to measure, and also the local civil servants really had to follow the rules. So you were not able to be a subject, you were not able to do the right thing, and everything was also organized in silos. So there were discrepancies by how you did things here and how you did things there. And so KEYS was a part of it. I created the design policy of Eindhoven, and design was integrated in the whole organization. To give you a few examples of what we did, we made heroin prostitutes find a new life. And really, then you have to make things to measure according to their abilities. And it was wonderful. But also we created new schools for secondary vocational schools, and we included the pupils in the design of the schools. And everybody said, oh no, they are not interested. Yes, it's their life. And what is especially interesting is the architect found it so much easier to do the things that they were good at, because they had a lot of information that normally they wouldn't have. Another thing was a development of a whole area in the town, fundamentally bottom up. So normally you have a lot of restrictions, and they said, no, let's create it, and we involve the end users, because that was really the statement from the first. We don't do it with project developers, we do it only with people who also want to stay in that area. And a lot of designers were involved and are still involved. And it learned us that our rules really inhibit the life. So to give you a small example, we had a small company that that made bicycles, and also wanted to sell them, and also wanted to be a meeting place where you could eat. And normally that's not possible in our city. But if it's small enough, it's possible. So in the end, it was very much about really from the start bringing in all the relevant information, all the different kinds of looking at things, and then making it work for the whole, and let the people decide themselves also how they could make it work. This is the most interesting thing about design. In the end, it's not about people having the same opinions. It's about people being able to create solutions together that work and are not paradise as such, but are fundamentally a step in the right direction. And from that, you can make the next step, because life is not the same all the time. Things change. So all the time you have to make betterment. Then what you could already see starting was the smart city development. And you know, it was very much connected with 2008, the crisis, and large technology companies wanted to take over cities. Well, it was all about technology-driven, data-driven, and in the end, we created a program that said, no, as people, we shouldn't be data-driven. We need people-driven data. We should get involved. So all the technology that was now included in the city was always based on making people create their own design, in a way, their own environment. We applied it in social housing that had to be renovated and made energy neutral. And we thought, oh, this is wonderful. But at the same time, I had created a countervailing power, a cultural institute that helped the people of the environment really take control of the situation. And the wonderful thing was, actually, the things that dealt with the houses themselves, well, people wanted that as a kind of service. But what they were really interested in is, am I able to live here the rest of my life? Am I able to pay for that? Do I have the care? Do I have the other infrastructure that I really need, the facilities? And from it also came a really disruptive way of dealing with the houses, because normally it was a house person, you know how it is. And now there were all different kinds of living together solutions created. And that's the most important thing. When you have technology, you always have the possibility that you use it in a very technocratic way, really directed at a part of people's life. But that is really not the solution. With the technical university, we created roadmaps in which you could see what the development would be in time of technology, for instance, light, of course, of the digital technologies, what the development of society would be, and also how organizations had to fit the picture. And that was the most telling things. There was no organization that would fit the picture, because what you were creating were holistic solutions, and that means that organization couldn't say, oh, it's just us. That got us in tremendous trouble when we started cooperating with Philips Light. We made a procurement, and it was, well, work together with people, all the people in the environment, and then we ran into trouble because young people don't go to meetings, and we solved that by having it made part of the curriculum of schools and things like that. But the real problem was that Philips Lighting wasn't able to cooperate with small and medium-sized enterprises that really could create the solutions, for instance, in public space, to go with the lighting infrastructure. And that had nothing to do with people within Philips not being innovative enough. That had to do with the sales part of Philips being very dominant. In a way, that being in public space also created a problem of how will we regulate things, and how will the governance be organized? And that became even more clear when the platforms came up. And that's really interesting, because it's an outside factor that is introduced in your city. And if you don't deal with it in a way of having the perspective of all the stakeholders involved, also in the policy making and in the governance, in the end, you will end up doing the wrong thing. This is becoming more and more important, since now the new development is that you have the infrastructure of the city, and on top of it will be placed, using 5G, the twin city. And on top of that, you are able to do all kinds of prototyping. So it looks very nice. But if in the different layers, the governance isn't organized in a way to keep us as a society in control, in the end, you will be at the mercy of the ones that create it. And it is not that people involved at with technology are bad in itself, especially the people developing technology, because normally they are happy guppies. But it is how the system actually works when there are no regulations. The most important thing to realize is don't be technologically driven, don't be data driven, and especially don't be driven by algorithms, the AI black box. In the end, we have to be humans together. And the other thing to realize is we have technology as a tool. So in a lot of things, you don't have to think about technology, and technology won't be a part of the solution. One of the biggest things now happening in cities is actually that we look from a different perspective to public space. What you see, and Barcelona is a wonderful example, we are looking at public space differently. We are taking out the automobile, which really reduces everything in public space, to a factory. We say, no, we want to be in control. We want to be a human being in public space. And that means invited to be there, invited to create your own solutions, invited to meet. And yes, we are all different, but public space is now the most important transformation point of our cities. And in it, yes, you can use technology, but you have to start with what also was said in the introduction. We, in the end, are cultural beings. We create our own environments. We can also create it differently. Let's create it together in a way that it works for us, and still all the time keep trying to make it better. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marianne. That was extremely inspiring. I noted down what you said. Design is about people being able to find solutions together. I really love it. So design actually makes our life better. It's amazing how design became integral part of city policy, and I'm convinced that all cities should take inspiration from Eindhoven in this matter. Thank you very much for the talk. And now I would like to invite to take the floor Mr. Cees Donkers, who will have a presentation about sexy urbanism, full moon for urban transformation. Cees Donkers is Dutch architect urbanist, founder of Architectural Center Eindhoven and the City Lab Studio, and the main person behind Eindhoven's transformation from an industrial to innovative city. Cees has extensive experience in urban development and is also a social architect and urban environment designer. Since the year 2000, Cees took part in organizing the Dutch Design Week. Cees, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you. Maybe we can start the presentation. Yes, it's there. Okay. First slide is about urban transformation. I would like to talk about the changes in the city. I would like to talk about the culture, how people were involved in this change, and the role of design in the end. What you see well, it looks like a painting from Dutch painters from 300 years ago, but it's a picture from nowadays. And it's also more or less a sign of the future, because the girl still is beautiful wearing a plastic bag, thrown away bag, as a sign for the future. I like to talk about these three elements: the past, the present, and the future. What you see here is what happened at what was known as our city, being the ugliest city in the Netherlands. This car used to be my first car. It's called the Ugly Duck. But our city changed from the ugliest city in the Netherlands into a design pearl, a Dutch design pearl. And the founding father of this change in the middle of the 90s was this mayor, Rijn Welsje. He was the one who had to fight with the loss of the making industry of Philips at that time. Thousands of jobs were lost, thousands people were in the national news crying about losing their jobs, but people started their own companies using their own knowledge as a center of new development. So we started up and we saw also in Europe, we can also change a little bit. We found out that if you see a picture from outer space of Europe, you see above the word city, our region is spending a lot of light in the air, but it's also a symbol of the energy that's in our region. Together with Belgium and Germany, we found out that cooperation was the key to the future. This mayor decided to connect business, university and city department as a triangle, triple helix it was called, and later on Brainport, to work together and to get results in a new system. This Brainport became our identity. What we found out is that losing all this making industry, we had a lot of empty factories to be reused more or less, or developed, let's say, at sites. What happened within the industry was that all these new technology companies, they were combined together in a new high-tech campus on the west side of the city. And you see a picture of this, a concentration of all this new technology. What we also had to do is to fight with all those empty sites, as you see in the east, in the right part of the picture, the west corridor. So that's how I got involved from a citizen becoming a professional to work for the city, to make urban plans for the whole area. What happened more or less is that I was able, first of all, as a citizen to talk about and to organize discussions, not to demolish these beautiful buildings of Philips, as you see here in the left side. The building is called the White Lady. City and Philips, as owner, wanted to demolish these buildings in the beginning of the 90s to build office buildings, you know, these glass buildings. But we were able, from citizens, to organize, to discuss this and not to do this. And I was able to work on these issues as a first start. Thanks to this mayor, he said, we need people that are involved in the city to, let's say, inspire also the city department from inside. We also found out that having these kind of empty factories could be the really good opportunity to create loft housing, so a new type of housing in our city. And that's what happened. My first job was to reuse this White Lady instead of to demolish it as part of the city, working for the city. And we reused this White Lady for a new academy, the Design Academy. But we also built more or less the same size of this White Lady in new housing. So new urban planning, as you see here, I call it the Red Gentleman, because this beautiful lady needed at least 3 of those red gentlemen. What you also see here, we reused an empty factory on Stripe S, the first one. Also used to be for workers and now becoming lofts. What we did was bringing in tubes from top floor to ground floor to bring in light, and bringing these narrow staircases, as you see here, to connect the different floors. Not using elevators anymore, at least you could use elevators, of course, but if you stand next to each other in an elevator, you don't talk. And here we would like to introduce also the possibility to connect through these narrow staircases, 70 centimeters wide, so you have to pass, you have to touch each other, and that's why we call it sexy stairs or sexy urbanism, to have the opportunity to create housing and for living. And this is how Eindhoven changed at that time in a completely new identity. Seeing here the old buildings of Philips reused for loft housing and for a beautiful restaurant at the ground floor called Cuisine, bringing the first free Wi-Fi technology, bringing a lot of students staying the whole day for one cup of coffee, but also bringing this beautiful building in the center, the Glass Pearl, designed by Massimiliano Fuxas, a symbol of, let's say, the new identity of our city. But the second part of my story is about how people get involved, citizens. I was one of the citizens in this beautiful village called the White Village, and I got involved organizing, when I started to live there more than 40 years ago, organizing, painting the houses together, having only one color of white instead of 10 different colors, if you do this as private owners. We were well known because of this initiative, and we won a prize from a minister for that. Because of this success, I started a program called QASE in the theater around the corner, Plaza Ventura, to talk about the quality of the city, to talk about not demolishing this beautiful white lady and reuse it, to keep the identity. A lot of people came there, as many necktie people from building companies, but also students and teachers, let's say. We asked young people to create their own movies, small movies, to see what's going on. And they got involved, creating video clips, as they call it, with music from that time, like Prodigy and things like that. It was amazing to see how young people got involved. That's how I got my job, because of this, I guess, maybe this QASE. In the year 2000, we found out that having this Baltic technology, the university, in our city, we like to use this kind of seeds for the future to combine it with important designers like Peter Eisenman and Mendini and Branzi, only for 1 week, but they were connected as professionals to these young talented students. Poets, a poet in my case, I worked with Peter Eisenman, a poet, a landscape designer and an architect. We found out using this technology and these ideas from young people was a big, well, secret more or less, hidden in our city. We've presented the first results in the year 2005, for the first time in an empty law house next to the city hall. More than 300 people came there during this week, ideas and to get involved by the presentations and ideas from young people. We also presented the results of those studies in the city hall to get politicians connected to the results of this innovative situation. Last part of my story is the role of design. What you see here is a small church, also meant to be demolished. But I was able to do this, well, thanks to also Marianne. Marianne is my umbrella to protect me doing this work as a politician, to reuse this empty church and not to demolish it, for my own studio with graduate students. I got a job at the university to do this in the year 2000, but also to get the opportunity for young people, young designers to after graduation to stay in our city and to use the place to live and work. It became very important because my story is only about this slide to show the skills of young people. As you see here, the 12 apostles, as they call themselves. During the design week, present their results. And a lot of people came to our city and saw the beauty of what they designed. Not being professionals in a way, but creating and following their own skills. And that was very important. The 10th anniversary, 2010, of the Dutch Design Week, as you see in the left, a beautiful picture of all the people that got involved. My part is this. But because I was a little bit old at that time, but we were finalists at that time for the World Design Capital in 2012, together with Helsinki, out of 50 cities all over the world. Although we lost from Helsinki, we found out that creating a caring society, as our motive was important to show the world that it's about people and care for people. A very important notion. We showed what's happening in our city by what young startups did. For instance, working together, cooperation indeed as the main word, as you see here. Collaboration O is a cooperation from 10 young designers using an empty factory hall to create their own studios, using leftover wood to create working spots. I call it breathing places, but because it's the fact that we can call ourselves Brainport, but for me it's brain field. It's the field of seeds that young people show to our city. Where I would like to end, of course I have a lot to tell you about international cooperation, maybe the last slide, because it started for me in Białystok, the twin city of our city. We went there together, Marianne and me and some young designers, to help each other. I was very happy to be able to do this and to go to Poland and to inspire young students at the university, but also citizens. And the city mayor, or the vice mayor, as you see here talking in the mic, he was from this city, Białystok. And the first time the university was connected to the city hall. It was amazing to do this. Again, also Belgrade Design Week, but also for me, Russia was also very important. Vinzavod 2010. It was the first time I went to Russia, but now I went there more than 60 times to connect and to help cities to get inspired by these stories. I would like to close my story now because I have only 10 minutes. Maybe we can talk about it more during the questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this presentation. That was a brilliant insight into Eindhoven. And thank you for showing how design has the power to transform the city. And it was extremely important that you were mentioning people, that design is about people, about collaboration, about working together. I think we will proceed with this during discussion that we'll have just in a moment. So, KEYNOTES, Donkers, thank you very much for your speech. And now the second element of our program for the first block is a discussion, panel discussion, that is entitled Multidimensional Design, Different Aspects of Creative Industries. For this panel, we have three speakers who prepared short presentations, and then we will have a discussion. Professor Jan Sova, Artur Wabik, and Stanisław Juszczak. Before I invite our speakers to take the floor and to make their introductions, I would simply like to give a frame to the discussion and a kind of point of reference. And that would be the definition of design, of industrial design. Of course, there's no one universal definition, but I picked one that I feel that is extremely universal. That is the definition that was adopted by World Design Organization that is located in Quebec. And this definition says that industrial design is a strategic problem-solving process that drives innovation, builds business success, and leads to a better quality of life through innovative products, systems, services, and experiences. Industrial design bridges the gap between what is and what's possible. At its heart, industrial design provides a more optimistic way of looking at future by reframing problems as opportunities. So this last portion of the definition was already introduced in the first speech by Marianne Schreurs. And the keywords, the strategic problem-solving process, innovation, business success, better quality of life. This is something that I believe will be a point of reference to today's discussion, and also that we have in mind that design is both tangible and intangible. It is about objects, but it's also about ideas and experiences. We invite you to ask questions throughout presentations and discussion. Please ask them in comments, and we'll have several minutes at the end to address them. And now I would like to invite our first speaker, Professor Jan Sova, to take the floor. Jan Sova is a materialistic dialectical theoretician and researcher specializing in social sciences. He's got PhD in sociology and habilitation in cultural studies. He focuses on research on modernity. He was a curator of the discursive program and research of the first edition of Biennale Warszawa. Currently, he holds function of professor at the Department of Theory of Culture at the Academy of Fine Arts in Warsaw, and he is also author and editor of several seminal books. Janek, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for having me here. Actually, I'm not sure how much what I have to say will contribute to the question of economy, GDP, material growth, etc. However, I hope you will find it inspiring and pertinent in a way. I was asked to choose one particular hidden power of design, something that design gives us and that is not so obvious at the first glance. I believe that design has got a lot of potential and there is a lot we could talk about. I've decided to focus on one thing that is also close to my professional practice, which is research and knowledge generation. we are used to a certain model of knowledge generation that is focused on academy as an institution. We tend to overlook the fact that historically, in as far as knowledge concerning human world, I mean the human, what we call the human sciences and social sciences, as far as this area is concerned, historically, for most of the time, it was not true. Of course, if you take important philosophers, thinkers, writers before the 19th century, they studied at the university, but when it comes to their everyday practice, they were not employed as full-time researchers or academics. They did a lot of things. Spinoza, the famous Dutchman, polished lenses. They were tutors, they were editors, they were public speakers, they were doing a lot of things, not working at the university. It only happened with the Humboldt model of university in the 19th century and then 20th century. Then human sciences, social sciences, and academy got intertwined. So all knowledge that is relevant in the sphere of human sciences and social sciences is produced within the academic world, with notable exceptions throughout history. Karl Marx was never an academic in 20th century. People like, I don't know, Guy Debord, for instance, was never an academic. A lot of people who were engaged in social activism and generating pertinent human sciences and social sciences knowledge were not academics. And actually, to finish this introduction to what I want to say, nowadays we see, and I think this is the result of the neoliberal assault on the academy that tries to turn academy into academic capitalism and focus on a very instrumental approach to knowledge. I believe we are actually witnessing the end of this Humboldt model. And I believe that human sciences, social sciences, this kind of approach, this knowledge, will trickle out of academia into other fields. And I think that design is one of these areas where very important, very pertinent social and human knowledge is being generated, and it will be more and more so. And this is one of the reasons why I find design very interesting. This sphere of kind of design that I'm talking about is sometimes called speculative design. It's a separate branch that precisely links designing, understood as shaping material objects, and knowledge generation and research, right? So these two things are happen together. There's a lot of illustration for this. I decided to choose one project, and I have just 4 slides to illustrate it, in order not to go beyond my time, and we can go back to this in the discussion. I decided to choose an example of actually a Dutch designer, Arne Hendricks, and his speculative design project that is called The Incredible Shrinking Man. You can see here on my presentation on the first slide, this is the main web page, his web page. This is what you see when you enter it. I wanted to show you it to be more interactive, so I could go on this website and go through it, but for technical reasons it was not possible. So I just made 4 screenshots. You may go into it and explore it more. So this is a project that is focused on the idea of shrinking a human being. You can see here at the top there is this diagram, a picture of a human being becoming taller and taller, and now we should make a human being smaller and smaller. Arne Hendricks actually refers to the historical trend of human beings getting bigger. I was told by Arne, whom I invited with a presentation to Biennale Warszawa, where I curated the public program 2018-2019. So I was told by Arne that this is particularly true about Dutch people, who are statistically higher than other nations, and apparently one of the reasons is eating a lot of cheese, because yellow cheese contains a hormone that stimulates growth. So if you eat a lot of cheese when you're a teenager, you grow up quickly. Of course, spend is very problematic for various reasons, especially when it comes to resources and use of resources, use of energy, There is a lot actually, and Arne Hendricks also includes this in his presentation, his research. There are examples of historical design of furniture, for example, that has become obsolete because people are now too big to use these chairs or tables or other things that were designed and produced, right? So this is a problematic trend. Now, the idea behind this project is to make, by scientific means, a human being smaller. So it's a design of a human being, you may say. There is a group of researchers working on this. Here you can see Arne Hendricks himself. There is a list of designers. Actually, I don't know how much you can see from this presentation because these pictures are really squeezed. I produced them in 4K, so they would be readable, but I don't know how much you can see. There's a list of participants, researchers here. So there are 5 people who are doing research, and on this website, you can also see, for instance, here is biology. What they do is they do their own research, cooperating with various institutions. Sometimes they are scientific institutions, sometimes art galleries. Arne Hendricks believes that actually you should use all available resources and opportunities within the art world and outside the art world to continue this research, but also they engaged in exchange with scientists, with biologists, geneticists, environmental study scientists, food scientists, various areas of research. And this website serves as a kind of a hub for exchanging information that are useful when we think about the possibility of shrinking a human being. I know it sounds as a sort of a crazy science fiction idea, but as a matter of fact, it's much more rational and much more possible that you would think at the first glance. So I encourage you to go on this website. You may just Google "The Incredible Shrinking Man." You will get the title of a film, a movie that was called like this. It's a movie from, I believe, 60s or 70s, but you also find in Google results, you will find the website of Arne Hendricks. You may also add Hendricks to this, so it's easier to find us. So I encourage you to explore and to see how actually rational, how interesting is this approach. From time to time, they also organize workshops that are focused on various aspects of, how the world would function, look like if we're all smaller. Actually, the goal is to make a human being 50 centimeters tall. Now, for obvious health reasons, this kind of workshops are not happening. But hopefully, maybe, look around, maybe at some point, the place where you live, such a workshop would happen and you will be able to witness it firsthand. So that's all that I have to say as an introduction. As I mentioned at the beginning, I don't know how it contributes to economy and GDP and business opportunities, but that's also not my field of expertise. So I assume that that was not the reason why I was invited. I hope you find this presentation somehow relevant and interesting. Thanks a lot.
Janek, thank you very much for this. This project is extremely inspirational, and I truly recommend everyone to Google Arne Hendricks and to follow his idea. You are saying that design is at the intersection of sciences. You mentioned the speculating design, and also that design poses hypotheses and conducts research. So I believe that this is the start of something, the idea, and who knows what will follow. So I'm pretty sure that you are in the right position, and we will follow some ideas during the discussion. And some practical thing, eat cheese to be tall. So if you want to play basketball, that is one of the hints. Thank you very much. And now I would like to invite to take the floor our second panelist, Artur Wabik. Artur Wabik is an artist, curator, columnist, and researcher of pop culture. Since 1996, he has been associated with graffiti and street art. He created numerous murals and installations in the public space. For almost 10 years, he was a publisher of comic books and fantasy literature. In 2018, he created the major Comics Now exhibition in the National Museum in Krakow. He was author of the mural of the Polish pavilion for the Expo 2015 in Milan. Artur, the floor is yours.
Good morning. So my field of expertise is art in public space. I just need to find I don't see the button to switch the slides. Okay, I see it now. Good, because I had a full screen mode on. Okay, so let's take a look. This is what you see now on the screen is a landscape of Kraków in 1970s, so roughly 50 years ago. And if you take a closer look to the upper left corner of the picture, you will see a tiny colorful circle on the wall. And this is a large-scale painting, commonly known as a mural. And what is interesting, it's an advertisement mural. So what I will be talking about today is the role of design in advertisement and the role of large-scale paintings in advertisement. I hope it will be relevant to what we are going to discuss later. So let's take a look. As you see, murals were quite popular in Poland even before 1989, and this is a picture from the 80s. All the pictures I will be showing are from Kraków. This is from Podgórze. It's a district of Kraków on the other side of the Wisła River. So this is a PepsiCo advertisement, hand-painted. The next one is even older. It's a mural made in the late 60s by the artist whose name is Jan Sova. It's a designer and a painter from Kraków. Nowadays he's 93 years old, so he's quite a pioneer of the advertisement in public space. And this is a mural he made for CPN. It was a national company, fuel company. They had a chain of tank stations, and they, of course, they were a national company. So on the next one, you can see a painting in the background behind this old-fashioned type of bus. And this one was made for Miraculum. Miraculum was another national company that was producing cosmetics, because in before 1989, of course, everything was national. There was roughly no private business, so all the advertisements were created for the national companies. This one actually exists up to today. You can see it on the left. This is a picture I did in 2018 when I started the public movement around this painting, because this is the last advertisement painting from the late 60s that is so well preserved in Kraków and possibly in the whole country as well. So 2 years ago, when there was probably around the 50th anniversary of the painting, we decided with some of our friends to try to preserve it and maybe even make some restoration of the mural. The project is is still going on, under development. We are not sure how it will end up, but we thought that it will be interesting to revive the painting and to show this perfect example of the design of the late 60s. So why am I even interested in the advertisement large-scale paintings in public space now? Because this is still happening. So what you see on the picture is a painting done in 2015, I believe, for Coca-Cola in Kraków as well. It was designed by the Polish illustrator that is based in Kraków, Mateusz Kołek, and it was also painted by hand by the artists from Kraków. So I think it is an interesting opportunity to involve artists into advertisement market, not only as designers but also as let's say producers of the painters. basically. So this is another example. It's Ben & Jerry's advertisement painted on Karmelicka Street in Kraków. On the next picture, you can see some artists who are doing it with this really tiny brushes. So it's a very there's a lot of details, and the process of making such an advertisement is consuming a lot of time. So usually they do it up to starting from maybe 5 days up to even 2 weeks per one wall, and then the wall is being exhibited, let's say, for at least 1 month, sometimes a quarter maybe, but then it is being removed and covered with another advertisement. So you could say a lot of fuss to make such paintings to be removed so quick, but of course this is how the outdoor advertisement is working. You probably know it from your cities as well. And interesting thing is that there are people who tend to see this kind of advertisement better than billboards, for example. And now we also have this this new law in Kraków about advertisement in public space that is regulating what can be exhibited and where, and how big can it be, and because we have a huge problem with advertisement in public space in Poland. There is way too many billboards and other medias that are advertising that are being used for advertisement in public space. So this is one of the examples how it can be done in a different way, involving some artists and art and interesting design. For example, this one is being made also in Kraków for Fundacja Kulczyk, and it was designed by a Turkish artist whose name is Ugur Galenkus. And I don't know how much do you see out of it, because it's quite small as I see it now. But on the painting you can see some children. It's on the left side of the painting you can see some children from the refugee camps. They are not that very well dressed, and they are waiting in the line for food. And on the right side you see some modern kids from Western Europe who are waiting in the line for, I guess, school. They are fully dressed and well fed. So it's kind of a very simple juxtapose of two different situations and two different circumstances. So I'm showing that not only because I'm interested in art in public space, but I'm also an artist myself. For the last 20 years I'm painting murals, both commercial and non-commercial. Some of them are just purely artistic projects made with some galleries, museums, non-governmental institutions, or even local governments, and some of them are commercial. Since I focus on the commercial side of this, I will just show you a few pictures of what I am doing now currently. It's a series of large-scale paintings for a national company, and it is being painted on the location where the company is producing their product, and it's a historical venue. It's an old factory, and we are using archive materials, pictures that were made 100 years ago in the 1920s, to commemorate people who were working in this factory 100 years ago. So so this is basically how it looks like. We are using a crane, kind of a lift that allows us to access the wall and to cover it with the paintings. So yes, I am also a part of this process of this industry of advertisement murals. But as I said before, I'm also doing some non-commercial paintings. And for example, this one is was made in Kraków in 2018. along with my partner Dagmara Matuszak, who did the design, and we did paint it together. And this painting is commemorating a specific event that took place during the Second World War. The American plane called Liberator, who was that was in the it was having a mission in the occupied Poland. They were trying to provide local resistance group with some supplies. So they were dropping packages with food and medication and ammunition and this kind of stuff. And they were shot down by the German artillery in 1944 on the sky above Kraków, and the plane fell down and crashed with some survivors. So who actually managed to hide themselves among the local people and then go back to the West because the plane was a part of the Royal Air Force, United Kingdom Royal Air Force. So they came back to England, Australia, and the places where they came from originally. But we did it for in cooperation with the local community. The painting is located almost exactly where the plane crashed, so it's a site-specific painting, directly relevant to the events that happened there. So in this way, it's quite similar to what we are doing commercially in this company. We are also reviving some historical figures and facts. So as an artist, I'm very much interested in working into some contexts, both architectural, urbanistical, historical, and social. So I think that good art in public space should be always somehow rooted in various different contexts. So to speak, it should be site-specific. So this is basically my area of expertise, and I'm looking forward to discuss with other participants. I hope we will find a common language. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Artur, for the presentation. So we have here design for advertisements, for murals, like large scale. Ads are omnipresent in the public space. They transform buildings, they transform streets, they transform cities, and sometimes they can also become brands of cities. Thank you very much for introducing this thread to the discussion. I would like to remind everyone that it's possible to ask questions in comments to our speakers. We have an immediate question to Artur already in comments, but I would like to go through the presentations, have a discussion, and then open the floor to our public. Artur, thank you very much. And now I would like to invite to take the floor our third panelist, Stanisław Juszczak. Stanisław Juszczak graduated the Faculty of Industrial Design with specialization in product design at the Academy of Fine Arts in Kraków. He designs and manufactures statuettes for various Polish and foreign events and festivals. He believes that consequence in following ideas and facing challenges that accompany each project will enable him to build a strong brand associated with high quality, attention to detail, and above all, as he says, with a multidimensional message. Stanisław, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stanisław Juszczak. I finished Kraków Fine Arts Academy in Design Faculty, and I am working there in a new product design development studio. I'm a product designer, but in my everyday practice, I'm focused on a more artistic than industrial design area. I design and make unique objects. I specialize in creating trophies for various events, festivals, companies, and some other important occasions. And I'd like to tell something about it because this is a very specific and fragile area, which in my opinion needs to be redesigned. because it is something between product design and fine art. On one hand, trophy has to be a representation or even creation many times of event values, some kind of three-dimensional recognizable symbol. But on the other hand, there is also an expectation to experience a piece of fine art object. In the same time, it is also maybe very very sophisticated, but still a marketing tool to build a visual identity of event, and it also very strong tool. It is also a luxury product, but also special because you cannot buy it. You have to deserve it, and it is also what makes trophy unique. It's totally limited edition product of desire. But for awarded person, it is something more like a proof, something like a symbol of personal success. And from my point of view, as a designer, the message of these values can be better described through unique experience, according to a modern way of thinking about art, rather than through only a visual sphere reserved for static sculpture or advertising objects. I believe that as a designer, I can offer something more than sculpture. We have tools and skills to do it, in my opinion, better way. And I'm sure that this experience should be designed. My work is closer to craft, but as a product designer, I have different approach than sculptors or artists, craftsmen, or advertising agencies. And I'm trying to design emotions coming through the object. And I'm using traditional and also new materials and technologies. In my work, I take under consideration various forms, materials, shapes, scales, and actually every possible method to express the meaning and the idea standing behind the event as simply and as clearly as it possible. In my work, I'm trying to design unique experience and build some meaningful relation between the awarded person and object, which is closer to me than golden literal figures made by, for example, by sculptures. And what is also very important to me, I often try to create some new ritual and involve an awarded person into some meaningful interaction, creating some specific gesture, which after years I would like to become a recognizable triumph gesture connected precisely with this particular event. Some new symbolic ritual, different than a universal triumph gesture, raising a hand to the air. And in my opinion, it is a good way to building a visual identity of the whole event. We can design not only a trophy, but the whole event image, creating some experience dedicated for awarded person, and the audience, investor, and media, and creating a story. And for me, experience and personal relationship between objects is one of the most interesting aspects of design. Now I'm showing you to introduce you my way of thinking about trophy. This is the award dedicated to manga. This is a museum of Japanese arts and craft. And the idea standing behind this award is based on a difference between giving and receiving a gift in Japanese and European culture. And I wanted to make this moment elegant, intimate, and intriguing. And this is a minimalistic small light cube with a heavy ball hidden inside the solid, and the ball moves inside, changes its kinematic, and that gives unique feeling dedicated to a worded person and for worded people, and make them focus on that interaction. And it's also designed to make them use both hands, which is important gesture in Japanese culture, and express respect during giving and receiving a gift. So the main idea is to create a sensitive and intimate elegance dedicated for a worded person. Now you see the Mercedes award, and this is a trophy dedicated to women of success who can keep the balance between their career and their personal life. The form of the trophy is based on a simple industrial tool, a spirit level, which is used for showing a horizontal position, and the award is very fragile glass tube. It filled with water or liquid perfumes, with a small bubble inside. And when someone holds it still, the bubble stops in the middle, which shows the moment of perfect balance. So the idea is to make this gesture on the stage, which makes the winner focused on this specific activity, which illustrates, in my opinion, the main idea of the event. And now you can see the Conrad Award. This award refers to Joseph Conrad and his Marinistic creation. The Conrad Award is dedicated to young beginning writers. The award is a long triangle-shaped tube. It is made of stainless steel, reminding of a telescope, with three mirrors inside, hidden inside this tube, which makes it a kaleidoscope. And when the awarded person looks inside, he or she can see infinity abstract compositions of letters hidden inside, which move and change like in the kaleidoscope. And this particular experience dedicated especially to a worded person, which I care the most in each of my works. And the idea is idea of the gesture is to raise the telescope to the eye, as you see. Which I would like to become a ritual connected after years with this particular event. Okay, thank you. That's all I can say. Thank you very much.
Incredible, and the whole experience that you are talking about is so much more than just a statuette of a human being, for instance. That's something that we are most common when we think of an award. This is the image that I believe most of us have on our minds, like the Oscar statuette. You deal with a very specialized segment of product design. Can you tell us just briefly what inspired you to work in this specific segment, to specialize in it?
I remember the moment, the first moment when my friend called me a few years ago. And he gave me an offer to design a trophy for some event, and also I remember my first reaction, because in the first moment I refused him, because we all know how the awards market looks like. Most of all are figures made by sculptors or advertising agencies. It's made from low quality materials, and they present most of all bronze literal figures. And in that moment, I realized that as a designer, I can often offer something more, and maybe it is a sphere which needs to be redesigned, and I can offer some alternative project. Something more abstractive, meaningful, something in my opinion, better than market presents. So after a few minutes, I called him back and I told him that maybe I will do it. Maybe I will do it, and it could be a great opportunity for me to change also my imagination about the award. So and that's how it started. Since that moment, I'm designing awards for various events.
Thank you very much for the talk, and thank you very much to all presenters for their introductions to discussion. And now I would like us to discuss. And the first question will be very broad, and I would like each of the presenters to answer referring to your fields of expertise. As I already mentioned, giving this universal definition that design is a very broad concept, and all of you actually proved that. Each of you have different perspectives regarding theory and practice, specific fields that you represent. Now we live in a very specific situation. The year 2020 brings revolution in many areas of human activity. How, in your view, the condition of design is changing? What changes do you foresee for design in the broad sense? Like I said, depending on what you specialized in. Are any changes needed? Perhaps Janek, if you could first take the floor, because your view is like the bird's eye view. You see it from a very broad perspective. How do you see it? Do you foresee any changes regarding design as such?
You see, I believe design as a creative endeavor is extremely interesting and also extremely symptomatic for a certain change that has been happening in the last 100 years, basically. The avant-garde had this idea that creative endeavor, something we sometimes call art, should not be closed in a white box where it's an object of contemplation, bourgeois audience, that actually art should be shaping the very forms of our everyday life, right? Art should go outside of gallery, art should engage in politics, in shaping the social world, in revolutionary movements. And we know it very well, this avant-garde between the war, from Dadaism to constructivism in various political contexts, in various ways. Artists, people who are creative, engaged in shaping the world in a progressive way. That was very important. The same thing happened in the 60s, in the 70s with, the Situationist movement, Guy Debord, but also Joseph Beuys with his idea of social sculpture. Now, I believe that in many ways, design is closer to this original idea of the avant-garde than art, especially highly conceptual gallery art, is nowadays. Because it's design and architecture, so I think we should be really linking these two spheres together and talking about them as if they were one creative endeavor, because they are one, and we saw it actually today during the first session. This is shaping the forms of our everyday life, shaping the city, the streets, the objects we are using, the kind of social interactions we're having, because obviously now social interactions are mediated through objects, right? We all have this object that is shaping our everyday life in a very profound way. Now, the problem is, I believe, that it's not creativity or values driven, it's capital and profit driven. Just as we're talking about smart city being data driven and not people driven, it's not an accident, it's data driven, because data, it's precisely what oil was for industrial capitalism. This is what data is for immaterial cognitive capitalism. So I would not focus so much on design as such. I would focus rather on the broad social context or a social milieu environment in which design functions and where it is subjected to the imperative of generating profit, contributing to GDP, and not necessarily solving problems and helping us live better, because now we can clearly see that the pursuit of profit and unlimited profit and greed behind this that is shaping contemporary capitalism is killing our planet, and it's also killing our everyday life. If you saw the great Netflix document Social Dilemma, it is also designers that speak there, people who designed the Facebook like button, who designed the endless scroll. This is actually this gambling machine mechanism that makes us addicted to devices and does not allow us to function normally. All this is destroying our personal everyday life and our environment, and design is part of it because it's subjected to this economic power. So I think we should be talking about these powers, about the ownership, about the political influence of big business and rich people who are really destroying our life, and not necessarily design as such, because design on itself, I don't think it can counter these forces. We need social movements, we need radical engagement, we need political regulation, etc., etc., and then we can use this creative power of design for good purpose. That's what I think.
Thank you very much for sharing this with us. And Artur, what's your view? Yes,
may I respond?
Marianne.
Because,
yes,
well,
of course.
I totally agree with Jan that it's design in a way is also used in a detrimental way. And what you saw is, in a way, that design became of age, and everybody sees design now. And then you see also that it is about who is in charge of the design. But design can also play a very good role in creating the concept in which you have the right governance and the right regulation created. Because in the end, it's about being egalitarian. If you have a good design methodology, it's from the start getting everything on the table that is important, and regulated it in a way that makes the best of the possibility at hand. In the end, it's how a democracy should function and for the better good. And so it's about the shape in which things are generated. And yes, I agree that this is a political discussion, it's a cultural discussion, but it's also a design discussion. And I love the reference to 100 years back, because I think it was Malevich that said, this is the liberation of our bodies, but in 100 years' time, it will be the liberation of our minds, of our creativity. And that applies to all. And to what you see also is the liberation of the material side again. It got lost, but that's the wonderful thing that Stanisław is showing, the importance of the material itself, and also the liberation of within culture of people normally not seen, of previously at least not seen. I invested a lot of money in Eindhoven or in urban culture, but because that was the democratization of culture in public space, so also publicly available, and that was wonderful. But Artur is also shown is that he is able to do things with an intrinsic motivation, both to make a living and just doing it for himself, without making any how you call it? I'm searching for the right word. Without giving up his integrity. And that is also a way of organizing things, that you don't do it that the one who pays the bill calls the shots. No, it has to be in a way that it really works. So yeah, we are living now in a not, it's not only capitalist, it's also neoliberal. And actually we are very much in want of creating the regulation, the forms which allow us to shape our world again in a way that benefits all. Inclusive.
Thank you very much for your input. And Artur, would you like to?
Well, I can only agree with Marianne and Jan. Maybe even more as a consumer than a designer, because I'm just a humble painter, you know. So it's not like I'm designing a really sophisticated tool to, let's say, communicate between people, and we are just painting pictures on the wall. They may be more or less contextual and site specific, but they are not the real tools that our society is founded on nowadays. So what I'm trying to say is that maybe we should try to speak about the failure of design than more than about goals and achievements of the design, because as Jan mentioned, the movie The Social Dilemma, it shows perfectly how the tools are not non-perfect. I mean, when we were designing internet as a civilization, we had really big hopes with this tool, and we I remember myself being really excited, and I was exaggerating about the internet when it came. I think we all did in the late 90s when we gained this access to the whole world's knowledge, and we thought, like, starting from now it will be so easy to to spread the good ideas, and in the end the internet is just spreading the lies and conspiracy theories, and or at least some funny memes, nothing really more. So sometimes, so yeah, it's maybe it's a good way to try to take a look on it from this side, what is not working properly than what is working. That's just my impression.
So, Artur, what is not working then?
Well, yeah, a part of internet. Well, basically, the internet is the main tool we are using every day. I'm now sitting in front of my computer still. Well, technically, I'm still painting. The picture I showed you, it's a project. It's still pending. I'm now spending my days starting from 7 in the morning, climbing, a lift, the crane to paint the wall. But last few days, what is happening in Poland, I find myself harder and harder to focus on my work, on painting, because painting is very meditative process, especially such a big wall, when you start to paint on it and you put your headphones on, and I'm listening to Talk FM radio all day, and I'm just listening what is happening on the streets, and by the end of the day I'm thinking, like, maybe I should probably quit painting for today and just go for a manifestation to protest with people. So I'm sitting in my car driving 50 kilometers to the nearest big city to take part in this, what is happening on the streets, then coming back to my apartment, which I'm actually renting. It's not my real apartment, it's just a place where I live during this project, and I find myself late in the night reading internet and worrying about what will happen next. And then again, I have to go back to painting in the morning, and it's harder and harder every day.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And perhaps Cees could add something to the discussion, because you, as the architect dealing with architecture and urban planning, you have a very broad perspective. We all live in buildings. We all live surrounded by buildings, squares, cities. So impact of the architect on life, of how we function, actually is possibly one of the strongest, if not the strongest one.
Well, maybe first talk about what's happened in my city. Well, you can see our city has a DNA from Philips, let's say. So we have design in our DNA. But what happened in the 90s is that people lost their jobs, and also Philips lost more or less, or moved their Academy of Industrial Design, because design was focused on products for Philips, so it was product design. But then the director of the academy, I talked with him about Jan Lucassen. He talked about moving to this white lady. They were based in an old school, my old high school, but they moved in 1998 to the white lady. He loved the design, so the design attracted him to move into this white lady. But then a new director came, Liedewij Edelkoort, also famous designer, but she changed the name from Academy for Industrial Design, related to Philips, into a design academy, more independent. And that's in the year 2000, we found out to present the results of the work of our graduates, the graduation show. We found out this could be and is still a yearly presentation of a sort of a sensor in society. And that's how I also changed my own mind, because I was pretty much related to this new function, this architectural center that I was able to found in the middle of the 90s, out of this Q Cafe. It moved into this white lady, only 600 square meters to share with designers. But what is presenting these since, let's say, 99, 2000, it showed the city and the country what was going on in the heads of young people. And I found out, getting this job at the university in the year 2000, for 1 day in a week, I found out they are the best sensors in society to see what's going on. The first years of the Dutch Design Week, it was product design, the presenting of crazy ideas, beautiful ideas of young designers. But then, during the next 10 years, I found out this presentation, yearly presentation, showed the change in what's going on in the mind of these young people. Let's say it moved from 80% product design into 80% of what I like to call social design. It was related to what people think, what young people think about their future. And I myself found out that these young people are more or less my teachers, even my professors. They show me what is going on. They tell me about the future. Only, let's say, 10 or 20% of my life is future. For them, it was 80%. So they are in the leads, so to say. So I think design changed in a more social design. It happened also in my profession. As an architect, I was focused on, let's say, blueprint design, designing the cities with pictures from, and designing drawings from buildings and streets. But it changed into social design, focused on people. And my life in this white village since 40 years ago also was related to this activity of related to people, to organize meetings, to organize feeling cozy in the neighborhood, to organize things doing together. So that's why I think design changed more or less our city, not only in our DNA, but also in the view on the future. And for me, young people, they are my tutors, they are my professors to lead me into this way, and I like to share my knowledge with them. But it's about this kind of collaboration between generations even. So, like it happened in my life, from the 60s till the 90s till now, it also is happening with these young people. So design focused on young people.
Thank you very much. And Stanisław, would you like to give your input to this discussion, because your expertise is also very specialized, so you may have a different perspective.
In this moment, also the pandemic changed a lot in every area, including cultural events. Most of them have been cancelled, but some of them have been moved to the internet. And I think that we have a problem because the world as we knew has changed, and we are trying to save our habits, our humanity, by searching new methods, for example, communication, just as we're doing now. And in my case, as a designer of trophies, I'm trying to keep those values also at my area. I mean that I try to save as much dignity of the moment of handing a trophy as possible, even if it will be given by the postman instead of a great and fancy gala. And I believe that that statuettes in physical form is a very important and symbolic object, which, in my opinion, shouldn't be changed. And the statuette will probably be delivered remotely by courier. So maybe the packaging should provide the awarded person with some of the emotions of the gala ceremony, because even today a very important element of product design is designing unboxing process, allowing the escalation of consumer emotions, and it is a tool to building the image of the company or product. And I think that in a pandemic situation, this process will be even more important. I had that problem this year, and I'm now more focused on developing this aspect.
Let's hope not, and let's hope that the gala events where trophies are presented will still continue. Before we close the session, perhaps we could have a look at the umbrella subject of the conference, the hidden power of design. And I would like to pose a question depending on who would like to take the floor and comment it. Oh, sorry, Janek would like to add something.
Can I refer to this question of yours, what is not working? Because I think actually this is a fundamental and very important question. Very briefly.
What is not working then?
Yeah, you see, I think we have to rethink many failures that we have had in the past. We have to adopt a more and more critical approach, and various subjects that were mentioned here, like the pandemics or the protests right now in Poland around the abortion law, I think these are important issues. You know, how come that despite the growing GDP, we have less and less capable health services to deal with such a pandemic? Why during the period of spectacular economic growth, the number of beds for intensive care was going lower and lower? In most Western countries, there are statistics for that. How come that we have abortion regulation supported by 15% of people that is being enacted as a law, and actually a failure of design or a failure of social functioning of design is a part of that? Because, you know, actually, and this is not a new situation, we had this diagnosis in the 60s, in the 70s. You have people like Vance Packard, who was a theorist of critical theories of marketing, and he showed very well that actually manipulation and wastefulness is written within the logic of how product design is being enacted and operating in the industrial world. You know, we are supposed to be manipulated by marketing, and we are also supposed to be wasteful, because if you're wasteful, then you also need to buy a lot of stuff. When you buy stuff, GDP goes up and profits go up, and this is so great for business. However, it has got toxic consequences for us, and we can see it very well in the destruction of innovation. Another area where we see this toxic byproducts of this approach is social communication and the social world and social cohesion. You have this whole problem of post-truth and fake news. Here, the design of internet platforms, of social media, right? This is the main issue, but it's not by accident. It has been shown in the research that actually fake news spreads because it generates clicks. And when you have clicks, then you have profits, right? Every click translates into cents. So this is not some unforeseen effect of, or I don't know, a random mistake that it happened. It happened because everything is focused around generating profits without taking into consideration what economy calls externalities. You know, I'm really not talking about anything new. It's a well-known fact that economic activity has got its externalities. We just believe that externalities can be exported somewhere, and we may stop caring about them. Now we witness a coming back of this toxicity in various ways, environment, social communication, as I said. So I believe that, again, going back to ideas that were there before, you have a great book by Viktor Papanek, Design for the Real World, right? So how to use this incredible power that design has to make our real world better, not to allow some people to get extremely rich. So Jeff Bezos can make $1 billion a week. This is what he made last year, $1 billion every week, $54 billion in a year. This is insane. That's where we put our creative effort. And apart from, you know, all moral, ethical consideration, this is just extremely bad for our common world, for our common good, for our functioning, social functioning. So we really need to put an end to it, because this is going to destroy us, our own creation. We should use it for different purposes, for the real world, precisely.
Brilliant. Actually, you explored the question that I was about to ask about the agency of designer. But what, having all those areas that you were saying, the communication, the ecology, and so on, what can a designer actually do? Who's powerful to make this turn from wastefulness into saving?
Well, first of all, a designer, just like any of us, can refuse. And I think we should learn to refuse more, to oppose things that we do not like. I totally understand that there is a question of, you know, we all need to somehow make our living and earn money. And I totally understand that we live in the world of waged labor. As long as we do not have, I don't know, a guaranteed minimum income, then we have to sell our labor to survive. However, there are many situations where, you know, you can very simply refuse. And I believe this is a very, very important political and social strategy. And also you can positively engage in things that you judge sensible and valuable for our common good. So there are both strategies, and I think they should be used in parallel way, right? Refusing and engaging. That's the you know, also it's nothing new. It's these are the basic strategies of political action. It has been like this for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Would anyone else would like to add something to the agency? Yes, Marianne.
I would like to add, what you see is that in modern times, we as subjects were individualized in our relationship with the state more and more, especially in the Netherlands. That's so. So refusal really is in a way bringing in also an individualized loss. And what you see is actually we should get together, as Jan said, to create different solutions, but help each other, support each other in really refusing. Because otherwise you are, in the Netherlands, if you really make a statement about something that is wrong, you carry the burden, and the way that it's organized goes on. To give you a specific example from my city, there's an economic program now in the Brainport Corporation, and the money comes from the states, and it focuses on care, mobility, and energy. And there's a total refusal also of the local government to create the governance that goes with it. And that means that it is, and the regulation, that means it is not there for the public good, because it's full of AI, and it's only economically driven. And when you see the research done on technology, technology is always also the result of cultural decisions. There's a beautiful European program in it. And it means that if you, as a society, don't take care that what together you find worthwhile, it will be done for you. And you saw it when the oil companies were created, you saw it when the banks were created, and now you have seen it when the ICT companies are created. In the end, they are just doing what companies do, and that is making the most profit that is possible. It's the Wild West, and that means that all the time you really have to take control back as a society. But that poses the question: who runs our society? And what you see is that now many people, and especially young people, are going to the streets and say, hey, this is our society, this is our life. So if you want a positive end to this, this is what I find exciting. And this is the democracy for me. And this is what I want to be a part of as a politician, because in the end, I have to be there for them. But politics isn't organized in a way that you're there for them. For us, it's organized in a way that you are there for the party.
Thank you very much. We have room for one more brief comment if anyone would like to add something.
Maybe I can. I found out in my practice that there's a movement going on in different countries. I call it city makers. It's not about activists, but I call them activators. People that feel connected to the city, what's going on in their neighborhoods, connected to the neighbors. And these activators, these city makers, they are gathering together in a way. They organize these meetings, they organize what's going on, they talk about, well, you can say politics, but about life. And it's happening in the Netherlands. The embassies, as we call it, so bottom-up movements in cities, to hear the voice of the people. So not in political official movements, but the voice of the city. It's also happening in other countries, also in Europe. And I found out it's amazing to see this bottom-up movement like it was going on in the 60s, let's say, the end of the 60s. It's more or less the same. So I like to encourage this kind of movement and to gather and to connect, like it's easy now to connect in this way. That's the success of nowadays, let's say, to connect in the internet, but also to meet. I think it's important to be noticed, this bottom-up movement in cities, city makers or city embassies.
Thank you very much. And now we are running out of time, so I'm afraid I will need to close down the discussion. But before we say goodbye, I would like to give the floor to the public and to the first question that was asked immediately after Artur Wabik's presentation, and it regards basically the ownership of spaces in the city. Who gives you permission to create graffiti, the municipality or the owner of the building?
Well, at the beginning, let's clarify the difference between graffiti and the murals, because graffiti is something grassroots that is happening spontaneously without any permissions. It's an illegal activity, so no one gives a permission for that usually. On the contrary, street art or the murals, so-called large-scale paintings, are being developed fully legally, usually, and you need a lot of contributors. You need an artist, of course, but you need an owner of the wall as well. It may be a private owner, or it may be owned by the city or the government, or well, the status of the ownership of the wall may be different. Then you have to create a design and ask the government, the municipal government, about the various different permissions. But I don't think that the technical aspects of creating murals is very relevant to the discussion we have here. I would rather point out to what this procedure is lacking and what is not present in the process of creating the large-scale painting nowadays. And the most important part that is lacking is public consultations, because street art is very oppressive, and if you go to the shop to buy your daily milk, or you have to pass by the mural, the painting, and whether you like it or not, you have to look at it, because it's a really big thing, and you can't possibly pass by and not notice that. So this is very oppressive art, and ego of the artist sometimes maybe too big. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to say that certain street artists are creating paintings based on what they believe is right aesthetically, and they also choose subjects and the form and the colors and everything. So maybe we should try to involve the local communities more into the process of creating the murals. Of course, public consultations are very hard, because you don't even know where to begin. If you should ask the people who live in the building where you put your mural on, or maybe you should ask the people who are living in the opposite building and who see the mural from their windows every day and night. So it's really hard to clarify where to start, but I think it's necessary to create the aesthetical visual aspect of the city together. And the other thing that is still lacking in the process of making murals is the curatorial care. I mean, the role of the curator is very undefined in street art. It's usually like that artist is coming and he's picking the subject and making the design, and the role of the curator is limited to providing him equipment, like paint brushes, this crane that he used to go up, and maybe some accommodation, food and stuff like that. It's very rare to discuss the form, the subject, and the coloristic and everything that is related to the work itself. So I think it should be curated more carefully. So that's what I think about it.
Thank you very much for addressing the public in the end. I'm afraid the time is running out and we really need to close up. Marianne, briefly to close up.
Yeah, but because what Arthur brings in is a wonderful metaphor. It's about the spaces we are all entering in, and that are not also defined by art. We play no part in it. And who is the curator? In the end, it has to be an open process. And yeah, you invent in the doing. It's terribly difficult how to do it, but it belongs to us. So Arthur, in his specific example, exemplifies what we should be doing together to do the right things. And actually, it's about doing. Let's do things together. Let's invent in the doing. And that's beyond protesting. And maybe sometimes it is illegal, but that doesn't mean that it's not right.
Thank you.
Thank you. As you can see, design opens up a whole array of issues, and we only managed to touch several of them. Jan Sova, in his speeches, made a list of references, like a list of authors that you might consult to get deeper in this discussion. I would like to thank you all for participating in the first block of the Hidden Power of Design conference. Our second part will begin at 1 p.m. and we will discuss business possibilities in the Netherlands. And this part will be held partly in English, partly in Polish, as it is targeted mostly to Polish entrepreneurs. Thank you once again for being with us today. And now I would like to invite you to a short movie promoting Małopolska region.
Thank you for the inspiration.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for the discussion.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Małopolska is strategically located in Central and Eastern Europe. What does it have to offer, and is it worth investing here? Let's look at the facts. Most importantly, it's easy to get here. Małopolska has excellent road, rail and air links with the rest of the country and the world beyond. Krakow's airport is the second largest in Poland in terms of passenger numbers. It's highly popular among tourists and entrepreneurs, whose numbers are constantly rising year after year. By 2023, Małopolska will have spent €568.63 million on developing its transport infrastructure, including its railways. Małopolska is open for investment and business-friendly. Every year, around 10,000 new businesses come to the voivodeship, including many in the rapidly growing technology startup sector. The region's innovative economy is clearly evident in the number of patent applications received, which has topped 1,000 in the last few years and is still growing. Małopolska enjoys steady GDP growth, which is having a positive impact on the wealth of its population and is helping drive the local economy. The development of Małopolska and entrepreneurship in the region would not be possible without EU funding. Małopolska has received in excess of €2.87 billion in funding for development purposes in the years 2014 to 2020. EU and regional funds are helping support businesses, especially in areas of regional smart specialization. The investment zone and numerous economic activity zones operate with the needs of entrepreneurs in mind. Companies operating in them have to date created close to 30,000 jobs. There are over 50 economic activity zones in Małopolska. Both well-known Polish and international firms have successfully established themselves here. Małopolska not only attracts Polish investors, the number of companies with foreign capital is also increasing each year, which is not surprising given the excellent conditions for growth and the wide range of investment incentives available. Some of the world's biggest brands have chosen the region for their headquarters. Direct foreign investment was up by more than 30% in 2016 in relation to the previous year. This was the biggest increase noted by any region in Poland. As production has risen, so too has the value of exported goods. From €5.7 billion in 2010 up to almost €9 billion 6 years later, the region's exports are dominated by information and communication technology, chemicals, production of machinery and equipment. Polish and foreign businesses also appreciate the talent pool that Małopolska has to offer. It is the second biggest academic center in the country. Some 29 institutions of higher learning are located here, attended by close to 170,000 students. It's also a great place to live. The close proximity of art and culture and the vast range of leisure activities on offer make this an exceptional region. There are almost 800,000 hectares of national parks, 14 UNESCO-class heritage sites, as well as picturesque hiking trails, ski routes, and a network of bike paths that is constantly being expanded. This all translates into steadily rising tourist numbers. Małopolska is an outstanding region in which tradition, history, and culture go hand in hand with innovation and new technology. This is a wonderful place to live and do business in. Małopolska. It's worth it.